Alright, what is up everyone? My name is Sean and I'm one of the TAs for this course, and I was taking a look at your schedule here and I saw that you have this ominous exam one coming up. And I like exams because I like to make review videos for you guys. I think that's pretty fun. So if you go to the schedule and you search for this magical topics list, if you go to the CS website and then you go to schedule and then you control F for your topics list, and then if you go here, then you'll have this magical list of things that we would like you to know for the test. And when I was a student, I think the best way for me to study was to really just know each one of these chunks and like know them like your friends and how they work and don't work, etc. So basically what I do in these videos is I just step through each one of these and play around with them, and then hopefully we'll see how they work. And then basically, yeah, I've done basically the same thing for the previous semesters too. So if you like hate this video, then I guess you can go watch the ones I made in the spring or whatever. I will say the quality of my screen recordings gets worse the farther you go back, so that's fun. All right, and I'm gonna actually look at the expanded list because this is like the short version. This is the longer version. So we have all these topics, and we're just gonna step through, play around with them. I'm gonna show you my environment real quick. So if I just have this Python file over here. And when I type this stuff over here, I'm going to run over here, and then it's going to show up in between these two lines. I'm not a huge fan of PyCharm, but I'm pretty sure you guys can figure this out. And then I might also play around in what's called the Python shell, where you can just put individual commands in like this, and they just show you the what it prints out. It also shows what it returns. If I just put like 3 there, it will literally show me 3. Or if I so if you normally just type like 5 times 5 on a line in Python, then that's not going to show up, right, because it just sits there on that line. But this will actually show you those returns, so don't get confused with that. And you can actually access this tool too. I know not everyone likes this as much as I do. I think this is amazing. But if you're interested too, you can open up your terminal, and I think the command on Mac or whatever is Python 3. If you're on Windows, it's probably Python-3 or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, just take a look at that. You can also find it online too. I know you're not super interested, but Python shell, and then you can click on the first link, and then this is like a simulated online version that's really slow, but yeah. So let's jump in to the magical list of things you must know. So first, we have print. And you've probably printed a lot by now, like I just printed right here. So let's just print something just so we know how it works. I always make all my examples about pizza for some reason, but there we displayed pizza. And this is amazing because if we didn't have this function to do this for us, I don't know how we would do this. Like you'd have to import your operating system and then hack into there and do all this crazy stuff and then somehow get this to display here. But we have this wonderful function that just takes care of all this for us, and it's great. So yeah, there's different things about the print function, and I might post this document at some point. I'm not sure. I was just going through, but so there's 2 ways that you can put strings together inside the print function. So if I have like x equals pizza and y equals potatoes, if I'm like, oh man, like I don't want to print x and then copy and paste this and print y. Like I want to do it in one shot, right? Also, that would do it on separate lines, right? Although there is a way to get around that. But there's 2 ways you can concatenate them per se, or put them into the print statement together. So if I put commas in between them, you probably know, or you can guess what's going to be printed out. So basically, it will take both of these and it will put them into this print function as separate arguments. So basically, this is passing 2 separate arguments into this print function here. And then the print function says, okay, well, you're giving me multiple things you want me to print, so I'm going to put a space in between each one. And yeah, that's what it does. And so if you wanted instead to pass them in as just one argument with no commas, then we would have x plus y. And you probably know that this does not put a space in between. So if you wanted to put a space, then you would have to say like plus space and then plus that, and then you could get the space in there. So the difference is this is just one argument, and we could have this kind of mixed up too. So we see this as pizza, potatoes, and even though this is 4 things, it was only printed out 3 things. It printed out this and this and this. as 3 separate arguments to the print functions. And the reason I try to stress this so much is some people they say they have this potatoes and they want to add to this potatoes string. So they go, okay, so I'm going to say y equals, y plus yay. So then when I print y, it will be potatoes yay, right? And that's fine. And you might want to put like a space or something, and then you have it there. But some people go, oh well, I don't want to type that space, so I'm just gonna put a comma. But what this does terrible things. This turns this into a tuple, which is a weird list thing that you haven't learned yet, and it's scary. So actually very fun. But yeah, so basically the commas don't work outside of the print function because it's when you have the commas, you're passing different arguments into this function. So if it's out here, just in the open, it's going to think it's other things. So just think the commas have to live inside the print function. So we see, yeah, commas put space between each string, actually posting multiple arguments into there. You can't do this anywhere else except inside of print, and let's see, concatenate numbers. Oh yes, so you can put one thing. Yes, we need to go through this. Can't believe I almost forgot. Okay, so you probably run into a similar problem as this when you say like, I want, and then you say 5, and then you say potatoes. That is not spelled right, but I don't care. And then let's say that this wasn't a variable, just so it makes more sense. And then, yeah, so say you were doing this, and you want to say, I want 5 potatoes. Will this work as is? You probably guessed it does not, right? Because we are adding 5 to the phrase I want, which is like saying, oh, hey, Python, I want you to say pizza, like, plus 5, which doesn't make sense, because it's like, okay, well, I add numbers to numbers. I don't add numbers to pizza, so, yeah. So you probably run into this problem. Usually what you do to fix it is you cast it to a string, which is later on this list down here. But yeah, you usually cast it to a string so that you can concatenate it into this thing, and that'll work because then it's taking it's saying I want, and then it's this is turning into the string 5 instead of the actual 5 here. So yeah. You just got to remember to cast that to a string, but my point with this is if you use commas, you don't have to. You can get around with it. Because if you pass it as a separate argument, the print function knows to just not try to add it to the other things because it's just putting spaces in between, right? So then this will actually work just fine without casting. I mean, you could cast. It wouldn't do anything, but I mean, you could if you want. Just wanted to always be safe, I guess. But yes, so you just got to remember that if you are using pluses, and you are adding like a number in here, then it will not work without casting it. But if you have commas, it will work just fine, just like that. All right, not trying to repeat myself too much in these videos, but I also don't script them, so yeah. So let's see, and we did the plus, and does not play space between things, actually combining into this one argument of the print function. Talked about that, so if you have like this, then and if I made this a string, and these are 2 arguments, right? Because we have 1 and 2 arguments. Okay. So next up we have the input function, and you also see it says no like related terminology like prompt. I think that's just like saying if we say like, oh, prompt the user for 2 numbers and print out the sum or something, then that means to use this input function. So don't be like, oh, I didn't learn prompts. Like it's just input. So okay. So the print function follows you can think of it as following a 3-step process where it's going to display whatever you passed in to the print function to the user, and then it's going to wait for them to type something in, and then or press enter, and I'll get to this in a moment, and then it will return what the user typed in. So let's just try it out. If I say x equals input, and I say like, enter a number. And then I like to put like this little like extra like new line and like little place for them to write. You don't have to do this, but yeah, it looks all nice over here. See, so I'm gonna say enter a number, and so then you can see it's waiting for me to do something because even you didn't see this other extra line that's in the program, right? So it's gonna move to enter a number. Okay, I'm gonna enter 7, and then when I press enter, it's going to return that right here. So this is going to become 7, or the string 7, because remember it always goes in a string. So then, if I do this, and I say print x, If I run this again, enter a number, I am going to write pizza. That's going to print out what x was, which was pizza. Now, if you forget to store it as something, this is not good, right? Because if I enter a number and I say I entered pizza, and so this became pizza, right? It got returned pizza, but now we just have pizza sitting here. And that's, I mean, you can do this in Python. You can, we'll talk about this more when we talk about returns, but this doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't get stored, and we can't use it. So always remember to have stored in a variable. Also, you can do things like, if, input, whatever, say equals x, then print yay. So you could use it like directly like this, not store it there. So then I could be like x, and then that runs, right? Because this will become x, and then those are equals, and then that will print out. So hopefully that made sense. I just don't want people to forget and just write their input on the line, and then their value or their whatever they passed in is just sitting there, and you can't do anything with it, right? So that gets confusing sometimes. So yeah, and as you saw, you can, if you run the input function with no arguments, it's not going to display anything to the user. You're allowed to do that. I think you have to pass in a string. Oh, apparently not. If I pass in 17, what does this do? Oh, I guess it displays a number to you. Oh, that's cool. Okay. But usually you're like, hey, write a number, and then, goes out here, and then they type in whatever they want, etc. So, and you've probably done this in your homeworks. So let's see. Oh, and I think, yeah, if you're getting multiple inputs and you paste multiple lines, then it'll see that. And I don't know if you need to know this or not, but let's say we say x equals input, enter it like this. Sure. And then we're going to do this for 2 more variables. We're going to store this as 3 different variables. We're getting 3 lines of input. So if I copy 3 lines of input, this is just a little trick. And then I'm going to run this. If I paste these in, it'll actually see it got. Oh, that's kind of hard to see, but maybe if I move this over. So yeah, see, it got the first one, and then let's see. Oh wait, hold on. Oh yeah, sometimes the terminal gets a little confused, but yeah. So if we're taking in 3 lines of input and we're printing them out, I can actually just paste 3 lines in here, and it will just magically work. And see, I got all 3 of them in there like that. So yeah. So what's next on the list? So we did input. Can't think of anything else with input. I don't think I have anything. And then let me check. Oh yeah, one thing to remember with input is that it will always be stored as a string. So if I have x and I say enter a number, and then I do like to do my little thing like this, and then so then if I going to say print x divided by 3. Now this actually will never work, right? This will always break, and see if you can see why. Well, so I'm going to type I'm going to type a valid number 17, or what's divisible by 9? 3 or 9. There we go. Yeah, and it's going to say, hey, you can't divide a string and an integer. And you're like, wait, what are you talking about? So this x, when we typed the 9, it became 9 like this. And then, so then this x becomes 9. Do you see the problem? Yes, because we are dividing the string 9 by 3, which is like dividing pizza by 3, right? So we can't do that. So that causes a crash. So whenever you are taking the inputs and you are hoping to make it a number, usually you want to put int around it, like this. And then now we can enter 9. It's going to print out 9 divided by 3 is 3. So yes, don't forget that input always returns string, no matter what they put in. So I guess here if I put pizza and then that int would fail, right? But it always just makes whatever they put in, it's just a string. So yeah. All right, now we're going to talk about int, and I'm going to go over to this shell over here. So I think I might play around this, but all right. So what does int do? Well, if we do int of 5, can you see that if I blow it up? Int of 5, we'll just give you 5, right? Because it's already an int, right? And int is changing whatever you pass in into an integer or trying to do so and failing, right? So, so if we do int of 5, that's fine, and then int of 5.0, and I encourage you to try experiments like this. Just try to think of as many things as you can and put it into these and see how it handles it. So int of 5.0, what is that going to give me? Well, that's going to give me 5, right? Because that just rounds down. Now what about 5.4, right? It's going to give me that. Now what about this? What about 5.9? What will this give me? Now remember that int will always, always, always round down, right? So that's going to give me a 5. And I can even type 9s all the way out to here, and it will still give me 5. So basically, int takes whatever you're putting in and rounds it down and puts it into a number. Another cool thing you've probably done is it will do this with numbers. So I can say, oops, messed that up. Int of 5 will give me 5. Because it will pull this number out of the string, and you've probably done this, and then, you know, it returns that number that you passed in. So one thing, the one case you have to remember with int is that you cannot do this with decimals if they're in a string. That will give you an error. So let's try this out. So if I say I'm going to do it over here because we can see the colors, right? So int of 4 is fine. This will run just fine. I guess I can print out each one of these. So that will be fine. And then int of 4 will be fine, right? That's just 4. And then int of 4 point, no, it's always going to be rounding down, right? So it's going to be, I just did this, but yeah, 4. But then the one case that you have to remember is that you cannot have a decimal that is in quotes, because that will be trying to take the int of, like, pizza, basically, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, yeah. So if you call int on, where'd it go? Yes, if you call int on a value, it will cast the value to an integer or just turn it into an integer if it can. Otherwise, it will give you, a value error, which is a, remember, if you look at errors, you'll see there's different types of errors, and we might learn about that later in the semester, right? But to cast the value to an integer, it always, always, always rounds down, even if it's like 5.999. I think maybe, like, if you, like, really seriously pump this, it might eventually go down. This, I don't think, yeah, you would ever need to know this, but I think eventually you can fool it, because I think Python's like, all right, that's basically 10. I'm just gonna put 10 in because that's like too long, right? So, but normally you can always think of it as always rounding down. Yes, there we go. And yeah, you can't take an int of a string that has a decimal. In order to do this, you want to take the float first. Yes, so if we wanted to make this line work, if I wanted this to become 4, right, then I could first, instead of just doing so if I take this out, how can we refactor this? Well, we can turn this into a float, right? So I'm going to turn this into a float. Then I could put this back in where it was, right there. And then, so if we run this, then that will print out 4 as well. I'll do 5 so you can see it's a different one. See, that one worked just fine. So if you want this to work, just remember to cast it to a float first and then turn it. You've probably done this before, but yeah. So it's commonly used to round something down or to put a string into an integer. If you're getting input, remember it's always a string, so you have to cast it first. Let's see. Yeah, and you get value errors if it doesn't work. So next up, what do we have next? We have stir. Oh, okay, stir is fun. If you want to know this, you would never need to, but I just learned recently that ints can actually take in different bases. So if I say, like, 10, 10, 10, and I say 2, I think, yeah, this will actually evaluate this binary here in base 2. Or if you're into hexadecimal, I don't know why I'm doing this, but yeah, it's just kind of cool. I don't know. But yeah, we were going to talk about string. We just talked about string. Okay. So what does string do? Well, just like int, it will take whatever you pass in, and it will cast it to a string. So if I do, I'm going to go here, str of 5. That will, well, 5's already string, right? So it just keeps it a string. Same thing with, like, I don't know, pizza, it's fine. And then if I pass in an integer 5, it will turn into the string 5, right? So see how that's different? Because instead of being this orange number 5, it's going to be this green string 5, right? Because that's what stir does. And then you can do stir of, you can do stir of pretty much anything. Like floats, you can do it of, I don't know if you learned ranges yet, like do it of a range. You can do it of the print function if you want print. If you do it of the print function when you run it, then it's going to stir what print returned, which is done, right? So then you get done. You can really just put anything you want in here. The only thing you can't put is like, I don't know, like while. Like you can't put like keywords in there, like def, like that won't work. And then, I don't know, gibberish and then word variables you haven't done yet. It's like, I don't have the X, so it's like, hey, you can't, you know, take the stir or something I don't have. But basically, it's kind of cool. You can take the string of almost anything. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I think just cast things to a string. And then float, as we saw, will turn things into decimals. So if I do float of an integer 4, we'll get 4.0, which is different, right? Because that's a float now. And then if I say float 4.4, it's already a float, so it's just a float. It can do the string decimals like this. Like that's fine. And that's, as we said, that's usually what we do before casting it to an int, because we try to do it directly to an, whoops. Yeah, we usually do this before, you know, putting this into an int, because we are trying to do it, it would fail, right? Because when int sees the decimals in there, it gets mad. And let's see, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just number ints and then floats and then string floats. Yeah, and then so I think you get that. And then if I don't touch something enough to just like post a comment or something, and I can see if I can explain more. Oh, and then type. Type is another fun one. You can take the type of something. So if you're like, okay, x equals 5, and then later you're like, oh my gosh, what is x? So you can do the type of x, and that will show you that, oh, it's an integer like this. You can also put literally anything into the type like we had before. Like you could put print in here, and this will say, oh, print is a function that's in here. I don't think you have to know that, but let's see if we let's look at some more types like decimals. This will say, hey, it's a float. If I put this into a string, oh, whoops. Yeah, that would be, hey, that's a string. What are some other data types we learned? What if I say false? Let's say that's a bool. What if I... oh, basically, if you have any expressions in here, if I say, like, 3 is greater than 2, what will this print out? Or what will this return? This will be Boolean, right? Because this will evaluate to true or false. It doesn't matter, right? And it's going to be a Boolean. Yeah, that's pretty much type. Just when you're like, I forget what x is, I want to see what it is, you can do that. Sometimes you can, like... you could, like, I guess if you were trying to verify input, you could be like, you know, if the type of input equals, what was I going to say, like the type of 4, like you want them to enter an integer, but I guess first you would have to cast to an int, right? This is kind of confusing, I should do it over here. If I say, you know, if input equal, or I should say, type of the int of input equals the type of 3, then I think this works. Print, yay. So it's going to ask me for an input. And then if I do like an integer, then it'll be yay. And then if I do like pizza, then it'll be like no. Well, I guess it would fail anyway. This is stupid. Never mind. Well, what are we on? Let's see. Type. We did type. Okay. Yeah, so these are the little built-in functions. There's more of them, too. If you look up, there's not that many, actually. Python built-in functions. I remember I used to look at this list all the time. Yeah, like, there's a bunch of these, like, abs, I think, takes the absolute values of things, like, and I'm just going through them because they're fun, but, yeah, like, abs negative 4, you're negative 4. There's actually a round. There's a round in here somewhere, too. Round. I hate this round function, actually. It's so annoying, because, like, 3.5, guess what? That rounds to 4, right? But what about 4.5? That rounds to 4. Of course. It makes total sense, right? And also 8.5, I think. That will round to 8. But, you know, 9.5 rounds to 10. So it makes total sense, right? It's actually called a banker's round, I think. It's just really weird. But anyway. Yeah, you can explore these if you want. These are just the built-in functions. And then, so yeah, that's all of those. So I don't want to repeat myself too much, but yeah, I think I hashed those out. So let's move on to operators. So we have these. These aren't too bad. Let's just take a look at what each one does. So if we print, actually I'm going to do this over here because it'll be easier to see. I'm going to clear my screen real quick, and then I'm going to go back in, and then here we go. So minus, well, you probably know minus 5 minus 3 is 2. You can also do this with floats. I think that's about it. And then we do 5 plus that. That's fine. We can do it with that. Now plus, we'll also work on strings, right? So I can say pizza plus yay. And that will concatenate them, right? Just like we did in that print function earlier. That will concatenate 2 strings together. You cannot concatenate a string and a number, because then it'll be like, hey, I'm trying to add 5 to pizza. I don't know how to do that. So you have to make this a string, and it will concatenate 2 strings. And then multiply. If we do 5 times 3, that's 15, right? That's fine. You can do floats too. And then, yeah, I don't know. And then, but we can also do strings. If I say pizza times 3, then that's what will give me pizza, pizza, pizza. Just like the, what was that pizza guys? Little Caesars? Pizza, pizza? No, I think it was 2 pizzas. So it'd be 2. Okay. But anyway, let's see. Now there's ways to break this. I can't do a decimal, right? I can't. I wonder if you can do 0. No, you can't. Okay, that's cool. And then, so this is kind of confusing, right? Because like this one, it wants to have a string on one side and a number on the other, right? But this one, the plus, wanted it to be both side strings. So that's, I don't know. But it makes sense, you know. Multiply is just concatenating it multiple times, and then adding it is when you're just concatenating 2 strings. So I guess you could think of pizza times 2 as the same thing as pizza plus pizza. So yeah, that's it. And then, so basically, these are not, my point is, these are not only numerical operators, that these 2 can be used on strings in certain ways. So remember those. Play around with them and see how I can make them and break them. So divide, let's do divide. So if I do 10 over 2, what is this going to give me? I imagine, what will this return? Well, this will be 5.0. And remember that when you do divide, even if it goes evenly, it turns into a float. So if I do type of 10 over 2, this will end up being a float. There you go. And then if you want it to be an int, remember you could do the floor division, which is the double divide over here. And this will turn into an integer, right? So if I actually just do this, then you'll see a 5 instead of 5.0. So yeah, just play around with these too. And then modulo, remember it takes the remainder. So if I do 9 modulo, this is sort of tricky. If I do 10 modulo 9, then what is that? So we divide 9 into 10, so we can do that once, right? And we have 1 left over, so it's going to be 1. But if we switch these around, then we have 9 modulo 10. And if the left side of this is less than the right, I think it will always just be the left side, right? Because this is saying, okay, well, we're dividing 1,000 to 9, and we can do it 0 times, so we have what's left over is everything, right? 9. So that's just a little tricky. And then you can try different things. I think you can't mod by 0, right? And you can't divide by 0 either when you're looking at divisions. Yeah. And then the last one is exponent. If I say 5 squared, 25. Python's really cool because you can do like crazy things like this. Like, wow, that's like a huge number. In fact, I can do, let's do the length of the stir of that. How many digits is that? That's 669 digits. That's amazing. Python could do some crazy stuff. Let's do some more. Boom, boom. Bam. Oh, it's waiting too long. No. I'm going to get this back. I want to see what the biggest one we can do is for fun. Oh, wow, that's 66,000 digits. In fact, if I do this, we can see it. Whoa, sorry, this just always boggles my mind at how big Python can do. Even though people are like, oh, Python's so slow, like, look at all this. This is crazy, right? Anyway, off track. So we did all these, and let's see, I think all of these are numerical except for these 2, right? Because you can use these in strings, and these, like, I don't know, if you say pizza squared. Pizza squared. Yeah, square pizza. That's Lido pizza, right? But yeah, that it's gonna be like, hey, you can't do that. Can't modulo pizza by 2, etc. You probably know all this. I'm just beating a dead horse, but okay. So those are the operators, and let's see, how do they interact? Like, why is 4 over 2 a float? Well, we looked at that. If you wanted to do, 4 over 2, we get 2.0, but if we wanted the integer, we have to do double slash, right? Because that is floor division. I guess you can remember because it's 2, right? So you can remember this is division, and then floor division, like 2. I don't know. But, yeah. And then what? Yeah, and then plus works on strings and minus does not. You can't, like, it would be cool, I guess, if you could say, like, pizza, yay, minus, yay, but this doesn't work, right? Can't do that. We will, instead, you will learn later that you just say dot. I think it's dot remove, yay, maybe. I guess you could strip it. We'll learn this later. Yeah, then it got rid of, never mind. That's later. But yeah, there's ways to do it. So, and then let's see, we can multiply strings with integer. Now with 2 strings, you can do pizza times pizza. We did that. Okay. So now, let's look at assignment and update assignment because this is hard to remember. So we're gonna be looking at we're gonna be looking at equals, and we're talking about equals, and we're talking about plus equals. So, if I say x equals 3, and I just put a 3 in x, so x now, whenever I type x, it's going to basically replace it with 3, right? I guess you could think of it that way. So if I did print x, the reason it prints x is this, you can think of it as going 3 right there, and then 3, whatever. So this is assignment. We gave this 3 into the x. We assigned x to 3. Great. But the reason I'm saying this so many times is a lot of people will say, if x equals 3, then print high. But this is saying, okay, well, first I want to put 3 into x again, and then, is that true or false? What do I do? So I think this actually just gives you, it's going to say, hey, try again. What you want for this is equals. So that's what we do high like that. And remember, if we said x equals 4, and say we had 4 here, would this print out the high? Well, no, it would not, right? Because what happens, this evaluates to false, and then the false just sits here on the line and does nothing. False. Because this expression returned false. And then that's it. Or flays, I guess. But, so if you wanted to actually assign it to 4, it's just 1 equals, and I'm probably saying this more than I should, but yeah, that works. So then we can do plus equals. This is easy. We say, let's just print out x. I'm going to say, so what you can do is you can say x equals x plus 1. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to use the variable in the redefinition of itself, which is kind of cool. So that will increment x by 4, right? But this is a lot of typing. I don't want to type this every time, so you can just do plus equals 4. So then if I say plus equals 5, say this will be 8, right? There we go. And you can do this for any number of things, right? There we go. And you can put more things on this right side. Actually, this plus equals takes like everything over here. So I can say plus, this minus this plus this, and this will work. Because it will increment x. It will add whatever this is to x. So there we go. Then let's see. There's there's not only plus equals. There's minus equals, and then there's times equals, and then there's divide equals, and then I think there's floor divide equals, and then there's modulo equals, and then there's exponent equals. Every operator that you saw here, you can do that equals to have it, instead of just take the exponent, it's going to say, okay, I want to have x equals x to the all this, right? That's what that does. So there we go. And then, so we did that, and then logical operators. Okay, so how about we look at if statements and like all this stuff, and we'll also look at these comparisons because these are commonly used with those logic things. So So first, so how about we just start with these literals like true and false. Okay. So these are just values, right? They're just like, having a 0 or a string or something. They're literals in Python that mean true and false. So I can say if I say x equals true, I can say if x, then print x is true. Then if we say else, print x is false. So now what it's going to do is going to say x is true, right? Because this x becomes true, and then this runs because you know how ifs work, right? So, so that's, yeah, this is literal, we can have it literally just be false, and then there we go. Wait, well, oh, because I changed this. There we go. Yeah. So those are just the little keywords, true and false, but those aren't, a whole lot. We wanted to be able to do more than that, right? So, so let's look at how we can combine these with ands and ors. So, if I go over here and I say, let's try true and true. Actually, let's talk about what these are first. I should really plan these more. Let's have and we have or. What are the differences? So, and will return true by x and y. This will be true if both x and y are true, and if either of them are false, then the whole thing is false, or this whole chunk is false. And if we have x or y, then as long as one of them is true, then the whole thing is true. If both of them are false, then they're false. And some people like to look at this in the way of a truth table. I know I had this in here somewhere. There it is. Yeah, so if you have like if A and B are both false, then, if you see with the and one, if either one of them are false, immediately false. But if both of them are true, fine. With ors, it's basically, I guess, sort of the opposite, but not really. If both of them are false, then it's false. All other cases, as long as we just have one green, it's fine. So I guess you could think of and as looking out for falses. If it sees it, oh, immediately false. And then or is looking out for the greens and it says, oh, that's true if you see one. And both will be false if they're all false. So that's great. So we can do some cool things. Let's say, x equals true and then y equals false. And we could say z equals x and y, and then say if z print z, else print not z. So this works, right? So it says basically we had the stored value true and false in here, and we were doing the and this became true and false, and then false and true and false. Remember the truth table, true and false, it's going to be false, right? So then this becomes false, and then etc. And I'm sure you guys probably are like, oh my god, move on, like, okay. But so those are how we can combine them. But we want to take it even a step further. So because if we just have ands and ors and literals, that doesn't really help us. But in programming, if we have these comparison operators, then we can actually do stuff that is good with our code. These comparisons. So if I have x equals high, and then if I say if the length, say, of x equals 2. You don't need these parentheses, but if you're coming from Java, sometimes you already put them anyway. But yeah, I'm going to say print x is length 2. So see, this is how we can use some of these, because this is comparing numbers in a program. And this equals, remember that this returns true if they're both the same, and the length of x. Have you learned length? Is this on here? Len. Really? I thought you learned that. Okay, never mind. But yeah, so that's how, you probably notice like how it's useful in our programming. So let's do a simpler example. Say x equals 5. So let's use each one of these, figure out what all of these do. So if I say and we'll combine them all in the end. So if I say print, actually let's just go over here. X equals 5. So is x greater than 2? Yes, true. Is x less than 2? Nope, false. Is x greater than or equal to 5? Yes. Is it less than or equal to 5? Yes. That's what all these do, and I think if you just see it, you understand it. This is not equals right there. So if I say x is not equal to 5, that is false, right? Because it is equal to 5. So 5x to 96, true. And then, yeah, we did all those. So let's make an example program. I feel like I didn't explain this super well. Let's say x equals int of the input of enter a number, and then we're going to say if x is greater than 10, print like you win, right? And then this will be like low game, right? So if you put in 5, that's still less than 10. So then, we don't win. And if we do something greater than 10, then we win. Now we can do other things too. Let's say if we said x is greater than 10 and x is less than 20. Now you have to put in between those two things. So if I say 14, then I win. Let's do an else case. If I say else, print, you lose. Is that? No, lose. You lose. Okay. So if we do 5, we lost, right? And then if we do 10, we're going to lose, right? Because 10 is not greater than 10. And then I'm just trying to show you I can like combine these logical things here. And if we did 89, we lose, right? So what if we change to an or? If x is greater than 10 or x is less than 20, well then you could literally type in anything, right? Because negative 1,000 is less than 20, and this or just wants one of them there. Or we do, 90 billion, and then there we go. So yeah, just play around with these logical things. Usually use them inside of if statements and to combine your logic. So yeah, and I felt like that took a long time.